Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beacon's Better Body Mechanics with Coach Adam. This guy. I'm going to take you through a series of videos. Got 3 of them to start with some great mobility tools that are going to help you get your body into better positions for the squat, the deadlift, or some type of pulling variation, and anything overhead, pressing and pulling. And we're going to start with squat today. So what we're going to do is do a test, and then we're going to do a retest after we do some of the employ some of these mobility tools, and then test again. So we're going to test, retest, and test again. We're going to start with a deep squat. So we're going to find a good position with our feet about just outside hip width, and we're going to come down into a deep squat, chest tall. Come in and see where you can find resistance. And what I want you to do is try to shove your knees out and see how much resistance you get. Where does that feel stiff? Is it in the hip? Is it in the low back? Is it in your upper back? Is it in your arms? And we're going to go through some of these exercises and see how we can alter that position. So we're going to start with an all fours banded hip distraction stretch. So you're going to need for this session a band, preferably somewhat low resistance. You're probably not going to get a lot out of one of these skinny red bands, so you're going to need something a little bigger than that. You could use 2 red bands. You could double down on the red band and fold it. But likely you're going to want one of these green or the blue bands. So get that thing strung up and anchored on something that's not going to move. It doesn't have to be a weight bench. It can be a bike. It could be a door. It could be a couch. Anything you can string it up on. And you're going to load up the hip for distraction. So you're going to get it all the way up around your hip flexor, and you're going to come out to get some tension against that anchor point. Then you're going to come down and find your clock. Have a phone or some type of clock with you. I got my watch. I also got the clock up here. I'm just going to keep running. And we're going to be here for 2 minutes, at least 2 minutes. What we're going to do is we're in all fours. I got my left hip on tension and distracted, lateral to my body, roughly lateral to my body. Could be posterior as well, or you could do both, where you could move around while you're doing it in 2 minutes. I'm going to kick my right knee up, rotate my foot in, and then block that foot from swinging back out. All right? So right foot goes up, rotate in, block. I'm going to do my best to keep this femur, this upper leg, perpendicular to the ground. I don't want to have it floating backwards and have my butt sent backwards. If you're looking down, that thing's going straight into the ground. Then I'm going to come down to my elbows. And what I'm going to try to do is take my right hip and drive it towards my left knee, the one that's on the ground. So I'm very stiff, so you're not going to really see a whole lot. So you might have to move around to get wherever you're most limited in that hip capsule. And you can do a little bit of kind of cat-camel type deal. And you can also play with your body direction. There's a few things going on here. I'm tensioning the femur this way, so it's pulling my femur head laterally in the socket, the hip capsule. So I'm trying to create space in my hip capsule. And then I'm also using gravity to push my femur head out through the back of my glute, my butt, the joint. So it's being distracted out and going up. So I'm basically resituating my femur head appropriately in the hip joint. And I'm just trying to hang out here for as long as I can, just trying to drive that right hip towards my left knee. And where you should feel this is kind of the back of your butt, essentially. camp out here for another maybe 30 seconds. Employ some deep breaths while I'm here. Anytime you breathe out while you're stretching like this, you try to sink into the stretch more and more. So when we switch legs, you're going to get a different view of kind of how I'm situated. I'll have my head facing that way, and you can kind of see a little better what it looks like. All right, come out of there. Come up and pull a switcheroonie. Got that band all the way up to the top of that right leg this time. And come down and come out, get some tension on the band. So it's laterally tensioning. Could also be posteriorly tensioning. I'm going to go with lateral and come down on all fours like so. I'm going to lift up my left leg straight so I can externally rotate my right leg, my banded and tensioned leg. Block that leg from swinging back out. Come down on my elbows and drive my left hip towards my right knee. So I've got tension going this way to pull my femur head out, give it some room. And then I've got gravity pushing my femur head up into the back of the socket. And then I'll hang out here for 2 minutes. You can also try to take a little bit of weight off of this, come up off the ground so you can get more jamming of that femur head through the back of your glute. And do a little bit of a kind of a circular movement. And this may differ day to day. It might be that a little bit more anteriorly you're going to feel it if you're stiff from a squat the day before. Maybe that you're going to get some more out of it if you're going posteriorly. And we're hanging out here for about 45 more seconds. I'm seeming to get a good stretch when I really try to drive this right hip toward, left hip towards this right knee. About 10 more seconds. Come out of there. We're going to maintain this tensioner concept and continue with the banded hip distraction. So we'll go back to that left leg. Actually, first we'll retest. So we'll find that squat. Come down chest tall. See if you feel anything different with how easily you can get your knees to stay out, your chest to stay tall. Now I'll do a bit of a different retest the second time around. We're going to re-up on the left leg. Get that thing tensioned up. Same idea, we're going to have the tension be lateral to the body. And you're just going to get a deep lunge like we always do in our warm-ups. Get as much tension as you can bear on that left leg and just hang out this deep lunge and just let that thing pull. As best you can, try to have the shin as much that way as possible with the foot still flat. I don't want to see that knee in like this. Try to get it shoved out, foot flat, and then get the torso into the middle of, if your other leg was here, torso in the middle of the two legs. You can also employ what we usually do with some twisting. You can sit there knee down if you like. Just as long as you're trying to relax and let that banded tension pull and distract that hip outward. Similar stretch, we're working the hip capsule, trying to realign that femur head and the hip capsule. Try to drive that right hip towards the left heel. And we'll stick here for about a minute longer. And also try to come away from that leg. See if you can get a little bit further away. A little bit more tension on it. About 30 more seconds. Employ those deep breaths. Fifteen seconds. Three, two, one. Come on up and out. Unload. Find that deep squat position again. Keep the chest tall. And see what you see with the left leg compared to that right leg. You should have no problem getting that left leg out this way. You might be a little blocked on the right side. So we'll go ahead and load up that right leg. Find some tension. Let that band distract lateral. I'm really bound up in the hips, so sometimes I like to just jiggle the leg back and forth to let it know to relax. And we'll hang out. In this stretch, 2 minutes is mandatory time. 3 is even better. 5 is amazing. The more time you spend under tension, the more change you're going to make. 2 minutes is a mandatory number. We're here for about a minute or so more. The reason why it's mandatory is because you've got a reflex mechanism that'll stay on for about anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. So if you don't stay in this position for at least that amount of time, you'll never give yourself a chance to sink into a new range of motion. You'll just have that reflex mechanism keeping you from moving into a new range. Once you get to that new range, you want to spend time there. So you tell your brain that it's okay to be in that new range. Mobility is about 90% dictated by nervous system and your stretch reflex mechanism. So if you can alter that, that's a good thing. It's going to give you a lot better body mechanics, a lot better mobility and range of motion. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, come on out. Give it a quick test again. And now my right leg's got a lot more range than my left leg. A little easier to get out there. Oftentimes when we squat, we don't think about chest. So when you get underneath the bar, take it off the rack, you have to be in a really shoulders back position. And a lot of the time, a fault that we'll see is a broken wrist, not a neutral wrist, because we don't have enough opening in the chest, as well as a dropped elbow. So you be able to get into a position where my shoulders, my elbows are back, my wrist is in a neutral position. If you don't have an open up chest, you're going to look a lot like this. And on the way up, you're going to get some type of weird inchworm movement. And what you really want is a nice solid torso so you can squeeze out and get those glutes and quads engaged. So what we can do is re-anchor this band. And we're just going to kind of go back and forth between some swing hugs and some chest opener exercises. So you wind up that band, get it on like a bracelet, close it off in the hand like this, and then just find a position away. I like to add a little bit of motion there to get all the angles of that muscle. Typically, I'd have it anchored a little higher, so you could get down on the knee to have a better angle up. Try to engage that core while you're here, so you can anchor that rib cage down and let that band kind of pull on that chest and get a little range of motion. Get about a 30-second. Find maybe 10 hugs, alternating the arm that's on top. And you come back, anchor that up on the wrist as so. Swing it around and lock it. We'll do the same thing. Get that rib cage down, engage the core, let that band pull on that chest. Give it a little up and down. Can't see my arm now, but I'm going like that. You can spend as much time as you need here. If you're very tight chested, spend 90 seconds on each side and then spend the final 30 seconds doing your hugs. I'm not that tight chested. I just want to make sure I get a little bit of lubrication in my shoulders and my chest before I get under that bar so I can keep that neutral wrist, elbows back. Bonus for squat mechanics. It'd be good just to go with those to get to be better advantage in the squat. But there's another piece that's very restrictive in this external rotation for torque. When we're in that bottom of that squat coming out, there's a big wad of meat here between your hip and your femur head that's kind of shaped like a V. That's your glute medius, your glute minimus, and then your TFL, which is usually it's a muscle that big. It's very, very tight. So a little bit more anterior, but you can take a foam roller and just really peel away at those tissues to get yourself some more range in that space. And what you do is put that sucker down, lie down, and find that spot, which may take a little while because this is a very tight muscle. And once you find a point of restriction, so I'm right there is pretty good for me, you can bend the knee of the leg that's down and kind of rotate over that. I like to rotate, and then when I come out, kind of straighten the leg. And just really try to spend some time and let that relax. That TFL, that front kind of flexor muscle. And that gives you a lot more range of motion at the bottom. Usually that'll block you. Your torso will get blocked here. But if you open that up, you can get those knees out and sink lower. You get a lot more torque coming out of the bottom. And that's your That's your bonus. If you're looking for one strength component that you can do at the beginning or end of this mobility and mechanics session, something that will really help in squats specifically, star planks. So a star plank is like so, and you try to get that leg as high as you can get it without folding your butt back. You want to be straight line from shoulder to ankle. And you try to accumulate 90 seconds there. So you do 30, 30, 30, 30, until you get 90 seconds on each side. Very difficult, but it really engages your glutes and your glutes and your lateral glutes and your rotators. Very good strength exercise for the squat. Thanks for joining. Look for the pulling one coming up next. See you soon.